This is Lou from Lou's Antiques and Collectibles, and we buy and sell stuff for our antique booths in the antique malls that we're in. Plaza Antiques in Lincoln Park, Michigan, and Maumee Antiques in Maumee, Ohio. And look where we are! We're at Port Canaveral in Cocoa Beach, and we are going to go to the Renninger Flea Market in Melbourne, Florida. We've never been there, so I'm pretty excited about that. So come on along with us. Here we are at Renninger's in Melbourne, Florida, and we don't really know what we're in for here. I mean, there's lots of advertisements here. I'm not sure if it's mainly new stuff or old stuff or what exactly it's going to be. So, anyways, it looks like customer parking. I guess we go back here. Looks like everything's under buildings, so that's good. And we'll get a parking spot and head on in. So we're heading on into the north entrance here. It's advertised as a farm and flea market, but they said there's antiques too, so we'll have to see exactly what we're in for here. So we walked on into the buildings here, and the first thing we saw was lots of toys. Let me tell you, they definitely had the toys at this place. Here was some purses. And here's a little overall look at some of the stuff. There was some t-shirts here, which I've been starting to buy some of these t-shirts as I see them. And I have a friend who does clothing, and he mainly does t-shirts and jean jackets. And I'll tell you what, I think that might be the way to go. So I definitely were looking through some of these to see if that would be what I wanted to do. So I'm kind of up in the air what to do with clothing. I like obviously the vintage clothing, but it's really hard to find these days. So I'm ending up having to do some other types of things to fill in that area of my booth. And look at all these little things for your Crocs. We had to look at these for ourselves. They had a pretty big variety at this flea market. And honestly, we ended up buying more things for ourselves than we did for the business, which was fine. Look at these beautiful rocks. Nice rings. There was not a lot of things I could buy and sell, but I was really glad we went there because, like I said, we bought a lot of things for our personal use, and it was just a fun place to be. And it was nice that there was quite a lot of antique stuff here, a lot more than I had realized, so that made it definitely worth coming to. We got belt buckles and more different rocks. And I think I'm turning into a bit of a rock hound myself. I like all that kind of stuff. And here was some new jewelry I was looking at, lots of big rhinestone barrettes, and a big variety in there. And there was kind of like outside booths within the building, but then there was like these little partitions that were like little buildings where there was stuff in there too. So I'm digging in the toys here because, as you know, I've been dabbling in toys, and I'll tell you what, I'm doing really good with them. I still have a lot to learn, but I'm trying. Those were $2 each or 3 for $5, which wasn't a bad deal. That's kind of what I charge for a lot of my toys. So for me, a profit wasn't a thing I was going to be able to do on that unless I wanted those things for myself. I have some sets that I'm trying to complete, so I do like looking through those things. And there's all kinds of Star Wars and action figures. And it's amazing to me how some of these little figures are worth so much money. And as I'm dabbling more into toys, I like I said, I'm learning more and more. So we're definitely digging through them all here. There was a Disney bucket there we had to look for. My husband likes to collect goofy items. And look at all these ears. And we definitely had to FaceTime my daughter a few times throughout the day to see if she wanted anything. They had lots of cool Disney stuff at this particular flea market. And there was clothing, leather jackets, electronics. Here's some more of those little shops within a shop, which is kind of a nice idea because you could lock your doors and you don't have to worry about it in the evening. There's some golf balls and golf equipment and furniture. And like I said, it was a huge variety. They kind of had it all. So I would definitely come back here. It was really fun. And here's the Wizard of Oz figures. That was a cool display. The different costumes. And here's some purses, and I actually ended up buying one of these for myself because it's nice because they have the little water bottle thing on the side. So for my flea marketing throughout the spring and the summer, I'll be using that. And here's some more. They have these big, large areas where like things. It's kind of like a giant dollar store where there's things for $1 or $2 or $3, and we always have to fish through all that stuff because there's some things that we always tend to buy when we go to markets. These vases were nice, and a lot of these items in here were newer, but still pretty cool. That was a nice reproduction cast iron figure. It wasn't going to work out as far as the price to resell, but that was kind of cool. And look at all these toys, 5 for $1. I did buy quite a few of these. This was the best deal there. That was fun to dig through all that stuff. And I don't show you at the end because, like I said, a lot of this stuff I bought for personal use. But I did buy some things in here to resell that I thought would go well. And those were little magnetic things. They were good for the car, where they have the picture on the front and they have all the little pieces you can use to build the item, like a snowman or whatnot. And I collect these little dolls too for ourselves, those little Disney dolls. So I definitely had to pick up on one of those. And like I said, there was a lot of toys. It was a lot of fun. I'll tell you what, if you got all these little toys, that was kind of the way to do it. I can't do this at the mall like this because everything has to be tagged. But if you're sitting there with your stuff, that would definitely make it a lot easier. And he had some decent deals. I got a Mickey there. I mean, 5 for $1, that's what, like 20 cents a piece? That's pretty good. You can't beat that. And there's another one of those little princess dolls. And those little buggers are about $5, $6 in the store. So that was a heck of a deal for those. But like I said, I keep those. I'm still digging for some more. I spent a lot of time here because the deals were so good. And I'm always looking for those LOL dolls because I do sell quite a fair share of those too. But it's nice when you can find them with the clothes on. But I do have a bag of extra clothes. If I found one for 20 cents, I certainly would pick that up. So we're going to move on to other parts now. And here's some nice jewelry. Lots of pendants and earrings. And their prices for these kinds of things were pretty similar to what I charge. And here was some nice vases. And it seems as though as we got into the back areas, that was more where the antiques were. So make sure if you come here, you hit all of the areas because you really were going to miss out if you didn't hit the back areas. Look at these big jars of jewelry. I never know with those. They have to be really inexpensive for me to take a chance like that. Those would be great for people that are crafting with jewelry. There was a nice big bag of stuff. Looked like it'd be fun to play in. Look at all the signs here. Snow storage area. You don't see that in Florida. And there's lots of Pyrex. And a huge collection, actually. Look at all this jewelry. Beautiful. And more Pyrex. Pretty much every pattern you could think of. Big variety. Even some of the plain colors. And here's some old cans. Some people just collect these containers. Oh, look at this collection of glassware. This was unbelievable. I mean, here this was back in a flea market in the back area. I thought, wow, what a collection. All the Viking glass. I don't think I've ever seen so much of it in one place. That was really cool to see. And here's lots of blue and white glassware. And there's the windmill pattern by Hazel Atlas Glass Company. And they kind of got it mixed in with various other ages of blue and white. Oh, that was a beautiful etched piece of depression glass. And if you're wondering what some of these patterns are, make sure you go look up my videos that I've done on depression glass and elegant glassware of the Depression era. And there's also one in the glassware of the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Here's traditional topaz by the Imperial Glass Company. And that will help you with your patterns. I know one of them has been real popular, but I don't think a lot of people have watched our depression glass one, which is very similar to the one that's real popular. And here's a very nice piece here. That's depression glass also. And you'll get to know all these patterns if you watch that. And here's Windsor Diamond by the Jeanette Glass Company. This was a whole big area of depression glass. And here's Sharon, or Cabbage Rose, by the Federal Glass Company. So the person that had the Viking also had all this depression glass. They had a huge big area of all this glassware. It was really nice to see all these patterns in one place. And here's Swirl, or Petal Swirl, by the Jeanette Glass Company. And check out that guy. What a cool Star Wars toy. I had to see how much he was. Lots of Star Wars collectibles. And here's a big bin of jewelry here I kind of went through. And like I said, we didn't buy a lot for the business other than a few toys there, but everything we bought. Well, now I take that back, because here's an item that we did buy for the business. That set of Fenton there, that turquoise set, I did buy that to resell at the booth. But other than that and the toys, it was mainly personal stuff that we bought. Check out all these Disney toys. This lady had a really huge display. So nicely done. And she had it priced a little cheaper the more you bought. But imagine how long it took her to get all this stuff. There's a lot of work involved in this. Very impressive. Look at all the plushes on top there. And there's where her price is. So this is Lou from Lou's Antiques and Collectibles saying goodbye, and we'll see you again. Bye. Stay tuned for our next Florida video.